This is the week ahead. I am Ibrahim Sani. I'm joined by my colleague Hafiz Marzuki. We are doing this live. It's Sunday, 18th July, 10:30 p.m. and we're broadcasting straight from our homes to yours. This is a show where we try to outline some of the key items and events that will take place next week and the things that you might take note of that might make your week a little bit more productive. Hafiz, how have you been? Oh, actually, Hafiz, you have one very happy news to share with me. It's about your wife's vaccination date. Am I correct?
Yes, thanks very much, Ibrahim. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that actually I've been vaccinated. You've been vaccinated. We've all been vaccinated. But my wife has just got her appointment date, and I'm looking forward to it. In fact, I'm going to drop her to the center soon. I think it's this coming weekend. It's next weekend. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having the whole house vaccinated against COVID-19. But moving on from that, from my wife's vaccination appointment, this is, of course, the third week of July, and it is normal for us to actually talk about vaccination. However, for this week, Ibrahim, we are actually starting with the big news about the start of Olympics, which is happening next week.
That's right. Next week, a year after being delayed because of the pandemic, Tokyo Summer Olympics will get underway on Friday. And the items that are there, there's going to be celebrating a lot of events like skateboarding, for instance. It will make its Olympic debut. Professional skateboarders are finally embracing an otherwise ubiquitous practice among elite athletes, which is physical therapy. But all these other items that is currently happening when it comes to the Olympics, it's not necessarily all happy because the Japanese population is rather skeptical about how the Olympics can be done while managing the pandemic. In fact, the chairman of the IOC, Thomas Bach, explains the situation right now.
We are very well aware of the skepticism obviously a number of people have here in Japan, and we learn this through the media, who is elaborating on this very diligently, and therefore, my appeal to the Japanese people to welcome these athletes here for their competition of their life, and to acknowledge that it is not for any price that these athletes are coming here. They have the same interest like the Japanese people, that these games are safe and secure, and for this they accept and even welcome measures, restrictive measures, which make these Olympic Games the most restricted sports event, not only in Japan, as you know, but in the entire world.
Yeah, it's not the same, doing the Euro 2020 in a bunch of European countries versus doing Olympics in Japan. These are not two similar items. These are conditions where in Japan a lot less people are being vaccinated compared to in Europe. A lot of people are being vaccinated. In Japan, a bunch of athletes from around the world will congregate to that place. God knows what they are bringing to that country, and therefore raising the anxiety levels of the local people compared to, say, for instance, Euro, where, you want to consider European as one country, go right on ahead, because they all have close to similar health systems, close to similar amount of adults being vaccinated, close to similar country-to-country basis on the National Care Service. In the UK, it's, of course, it's National Health Service. So it's not the same. It's like Euro, there's a big country doing things together. In Japan, a lot of countries are going there. So I can understand why the Japanese people are very anxious about the whole thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, Ibrahim. And in fact, if we were to look at today's numbers, according to the Tokyo government, they've just reported 1,008 daily COVID cases today in Tokyo, and this means it's the fifth straight day that they've recorded 1,000 over cases, and it shows that signs of possibly a fifth wave of virus even before Olympic is starting, and that's definitely a cause of concern. And if you were to compare this with yesterday's number, Saturday's number in Tokyo is about 1,410 daily new cases, which is the single highest spike since January 21st. And if we were to look at the 7-day rolling average of new cases in Tokyo, which is already under a fourth COVID-19 state of emergency. In fact, Malaysia is not the only one under state of emergency. Tokyo is also under a fourth COVID-19 state of emergency. It was up 45.6% from the previous week at only about 1,068 cases per day. And I know why this is such a big concern. And in fact, it is affecting PM Yoshihide Suga's popularity. And I remembered when first it was announced that Tokyo, or rather Japan, is hosting the Olympics, everyone is so excited because you always know there's always something creative with Japan. But it turns out it's bringing more harm than good to the Japanese government, this Olympics event, Ibrahim.
Yeah, whatever it is, Malaysians are there in Japan. Our Olympians are fighting for the good graces of the nation and is keeping the Jalur Gemilang flying high there. In fact, some of them have been there since July 8th. The second set has arrived yesterday, and the third set will leave on July 20th. So whatever it is, Malaysians are going there, representing the nation. Pandalila Rinong, Nur Dabita Sabri, these are the brand ambassadors for not only Malaysian Olympics, but of course the airline that is flying us there, Malaysian Airlines is flying the Olympics there. So I do wish them all the best. That is happening next week. I'm not too sure how this is going to affect your next week, agenda, but perhaps, the sporting events like this does bring about or uplift the national spirit, despite not many people agreeing that Olympics should be done anyway. But anyway, I just want to wish everyone there good luck, and hopefully you can bring back some medals.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Ibrahim. I'm also hoping for the best. But in fact, actually, it doesn't affect me because I've never actually watched Olympics at the event itself.
Oh, you haven't? Not even the 100-meter race?
It is always from the comforts of my home.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go for one short break. When we come back, we'll talk about vaccination news that's coming up right after these messages. This is The Week Ahead. My name is Ibrahim Sani. Hafiz Marzuki joins us. We're doing this live. It's Sunday, 18th July, 10:40 p.m. Starting 17th July, starting yesterday, senior citizens in Malaysia, if you haven't gotten any appointment dates on your MySejahtera account, you can just walk into any vaccination centers. The minister in charge of coordinating the vaccination program, Khairi Jamaluddin, said so. This is him in this particular clip.
Sejajar dengan Operation Surge Capacity, saya ingin menyambut apa yang Yang Berhormat sebut semalam, dan bermula esok Sabtu 17 Julai, warga emas yang belum lagi menerima appointment, yang belum ada appointment dalam MySejahtera, dibenarkan walk-in ke mana-mana PPV untuk divaksinasi di Kuala Lumpur dan Selangor. Tetapi saya minta tolong pihak media tekankan bahawa walk-in bagi warga emas bermula daripada esok adalah untuk mereka yang belum lagi mendapat appointment. Ada ramai yang dah dapat appointment sehingga ke akhir bulan ini, dan saya tidak mahu yang dah ada appointment datang walk-in besok, sebab itu akan menimbulkan sedikit kekeliruan dalam sistem. Ini adalah khusus kepada warga emas 60 tahun ke atas yang belum lagi terima appointment dalam MySejahtera. Bolehlah walk-in ke mana-mana PPV di Kuala Lumpur dan juga Selangor untuk menerima vaksinasi mereka.
So Ibrahim, as you can see, this is a great news, especially that we all know that those above the 60 considered as a vulnerable group. In fact, my grandmother is actually within this group, and she actually got her vaccination appointment on the 16th of July, just like 1 day short from actually doing the walk-in. And at the moment when they announced this, I was already thinking that, I should have just brought her to the vaccination center if any walk-ins is allowed. And I think this is a good thing, especially for the those above the 60. We all know they are the most vulnerable, and it's important for us as a country to protect the vulnerable ones first. Ibrahim.
Still on the news of vaccination, but more on policy. As we know, next week there's going to be a lot of talks into how the parliament is going to be done. And apparently it seems like the administrators want to limit only 80 people to be allowed in the August hall. The rest of the 120 MPs have to work it out using Zoom or Skype or any other media online tools that they have at their disposal. So this has brought about some interesting reactions from the parliamentarians. But before we jump into that, let's hear from the Deputy Speaker of the House explaining about the issue.
We are ready 5 hari untuk Dewan Rakyat dan 3 hari untuk Dewan Negara. Jadi semua tajuk-tajuk berkaitan dengan COVID akan dibentangkan oleh kita dengan peraturan penerangan oleh menteri. Yang kata tak boleh berbahas tu maknanya kita bagi ruang, ada soalan-soalan boleh ditanyai. Cuma ada satu usul untuk membuat hybrid ke tak hybrid itu tidak dalam agenda buat waktu ini. Kerana kita boleh melakukannya dengan cara yang biasa. Jadi saya harap semua dengan pematuhan SOP yang sangat ketat itu cukup penting. Kerana parlimen pun tak terkecuali. It cannot be like normal. It has got to be very strict. Macam tahun lepas kita buat daripada 222 hanya 80 saja yang boleh masuk. Dia kena masuk dengan menggunakan kad yang kebenaran tersebut. Dan setiap menteri, timbalan menteri cannot bring all your staff. Dia kena terhad. Mungkin pada 3, pada 2. Jadi yang nak masuk semua nak kena swab. Ya.
Well, clearly you can see there, Ibrahim, steps are being taken for the start of this parliament session. Of course, there are a lot of debates on how it's being conducted, and I believe we will see it unfold in this. Actually, I don't believe this coming week. It's going to go on for many weeks to come. And in fact, I do think that it is important for us to actually know when exactly they can discuss about having a hybrid parliamentary debate or not. Because as you can see, COVID is not going anywhere anytime soon. And it is important for us to actually have a viable way moving forward. Because as you all know, I believe the Speaker of the House of Dewan Rakyat, Dato' Azhar Azizan Harun, or otherwise more famously or popularly known as Art Harun, has already said that the first regular session of the parliament is scheduled to start in September. Ibrahim.
I think it's also important for us to take stock that the parliament is only open for 5 days, right? We don't count the 3 days that the upper house is open. That's not where the business of the people is normally done. The Dewan Rakyat is where it's normally done. I don't know whether 5 days is enough for them to discuss the entirety of the business of the people. Think about it this way. I just found out that the law to change from cash accounting to accrual accounting has been sitting on the desks of MP for years because that law is not taking precedent over all the other stuff that is happening. That's just one law that needs to be passed sometime soon. It cannot be sitting there for years. Imagine when you write a law 3 years ago, thinking that the law is going to be up to date then. By the time the law is passed, it's already been outdated by 3 years. All right, that's just one example. And of course, you have more pressing issues, right? Like issues on pertaining to budget, to the economic stimulus packages that the government has been rolling out. I don't know whether all of this can be done in 5 days. And imagine, normally, and Hafiz, you've been a keen spectator of this rubbish for the past few years now, you know that the first few days is going to be a lot of quarrels, screaming, a lot of chest thumping, a lot of showmanship, so to speak, before they can actually settle down and do business.
Especially now, right, Ibrahim, when they haven't met for so many months, right? So I do hope they could, the parliamentarians know and understand the situation. 5 days, yes, I do agree, is indeed a short time, but it should be utilized to the best of it. Yes, it could be more, but this is what has been given. to the parliamentarians so far. So make full use of it. And yes, I do know, Ibrahim, there have been a lot of things uttered and said in the Dewan Rakyat, and I do hope that this time around they will actually focus on the business of the Rakyat, because that's where it's most important right now, Ibrahim.
All right. So the second story was more of getting senior citizens to walk in. That's important. If you're a senior citizen watching us right now, that's where the action is for next week. So, turn up at the vaccination center. This story is about the parliament, making sure that all of you are aware that the business of the parliament is going to take place next week on Monday. So this whole week will be more of the clarification of that one, on the procedures of it. But our next story is a very heartwarming story, which is about the vaccination rate outright. Because up until 17th July, close to 4 million Malaysians have received at least one dose of vaccines. 4 million Malaysians. And to put it into contrast, the global population, 3.6 billion people have received at least one dose. So Malaysia is getting there. But according to the minister in charge of the COVID immunization program, in the upcoming week, next week, we're going to see up to 1.3 million people receiving their doses in this next 7 days. So it's a big news. Here is KJ talking about it.
Untuk makluman, jumlah populasi dewasa di Kuala Lumpur dan Selangor adalah 6.1 juta, di mana sehingga 15 Julai, seramai 3.5 juta telah selesai dos pertama. Kami menjangkakan seramai 1.3 juta orang akan menerima dos pertama sehingga 25 hari bulan Julai, daripada sekarang ke 25 hari bulan Julai. Manakala baki populasi dewasa yang akan menerima dos pertama adalah antara 26 Julai sehingga 1 Ogos adalah seramai 1.3 juta.
That's definitely music to our ears, right, Ibrahim? Because we've been talking about vaccination week in, week out since February, since January. I mean, we've been talking about this for so long, and I'm so happy. I'm personally so happy, and kudos to the government for getting this 400,000 daily vaccination rate. That is actually helping, hastening the whole vaccination process, because we all know, right, that's the name of the game in facing COVID. You need to outpace the virus, and having a 400,000 daily vaccination rate does help in our battle to outpace the virus, and I do sincerely hope that it will continue, right? Especially with coordinating minister Khairi have already mentioned about the Operation Surge capacity, where they are planning to vaccinate everyone in the Klang Valley, at least the adult population. And you've said just before the clip that almost 1.3 more Malaysians will receive their first dose, including my wife, which is I'm so happy that this is going well, and hopefully in due time, maybe in the next 2 weeks, in the next month, the number of cases will start to dwindle now. Ibrahim.
Yeah, there's also that story of the National Recovery Plan from phase 1 to phase 2, phase 2 to phase 3. The clear barometer from phase 1 to phase 2 is 10% of the population must be fully vaccinated. By the way, 20% of Malaysians have been fully vaccinated, so that much we have checked that box. But average daily cases, in order for you to move from phase 1 to phase 3, has to be below 4,000. Right now, it's at 10,000. Today, it was just 13,000. Yesterday or the day before that, it was 9,000, 11,000. So it's not there yet. So I think from phase 1 to phase 2, we're not there yet. But from phase 2 to phase 3, it should be quite fast. We are expecting about 40% of population to be fully vaccinated by then. Hopefully, the daily cases will go down by 2,000. So the pain would be from phase 1 to phase 2, not so much phase 2 to phase 3. That is coming up in the weeks to come, not necessarily next week. But we'll go for one short break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about what they call vaccine dividend. Let's find out after this break. This is the week ahead. Right now, we should talk about vaccine dividend. Should extra privileges be given to people that have been vaccinated? Should we, punish those that haven't been vaccinated by not allowing them extra liberties and so on. There's a lot of things that needs to be debated when it comes to those that do not want to be vaccinated versus those that took the pains and trouble to be vaccinated. To understand this issue better, we have a clip from Dr. Rafidah Hanim of the University Science Islam Malaysia. She's from the medical faculty there, talking about the issue about the possibility of unfairness being created in those that have and those that have not. Let's hear her out.
Kita kata kalau sektor kilang di mana semua pekerja dia telah pun divaksinasi, maka mereka dibenarkan buat operasi. Kerana mereka duduk dalam kelompok mereka sendiri. So itu akan memastikan bahawa semua pekerja kilang telah divaksinasi dan sektor ekonomi bergerak semula. Majikanlah yang kena memastikan bahawa semua pekerja mereka telah divaksinasi, memudahkan dan memastikan agar proses ini berlaku. Kerana proses vaksinasi ini, orang kata kita cuba untuk berlaku adil kepada semua, tetapi memang akan memakan masa lah kerana setiap hari akan ada giliran kan. Masalah adalah mereka yang tak mendaftar pun.
Betul.
Sebab mereka rasa macam kalau dia tak daftar pun, kelebihan dia sama dengan orang yang dah vaksin.
Betul.
Sama-sama boleh bergerak, sama-sama boleh ni. Jadinya kita tak akan dapat capai objektif yang kita nak supaya majoriti memastikan mereka telah divaksin.
So you see, Ibrahim, clearly vaccine dividends is expected to have some sort of impact on the vaccine registration process. However, I do think it is important for these perks or so-called perks of these vaccine dividends to be announced first. In fact, I believe the National Security Council is supposed to meet up and discuss about this issue, and that is among one of the many things that we can expect in this coming week, whether they will announce the standard operating procedures for those who have finished their vaccination. But of course, I think it is important to actually announce what perks you get first before implementing it, because as you all know, not everyone, we need to make sure that everyone who is registered on the MySejahtera get fully vaccinated before implementing it, because otherwise, yes, people will complain about unfairness.
Yeah, but it's also important for us to do things simultaneously. It's like this, Hafiz. You have your job, I have my job. We both do things in tandem with the objective and the goal, but we do different things. Get it? That's why, say, for instance, Kari Jamaluddin, he will be fully focused on the immunization program because he's the coordinating minister for that. Zafrul, he's now the coordinating minister for the National Recovery Plan. He must do other things as well. And all the other ministers, we have plenty of them, just take your pick. They have to do different things all towards achieving one goal. One such goal, one such objective that can be done is trying to print out the SOP that states what does a company need to do in order to get their businesses reopened. Are they allowed to accept customers today? As of 19th of July, can they accept customers if they have been fully vaccinated, if their customers have been fully vaccinated? If they can't, then spell it out. If they can, also spell it out. That is the only way forward for us to get more clarity on not solving or combating COVID-19, but how we can live with COVID-19. That has to be out there. That is the part where we really need to wrap our heads around. COVID-19 is not going anywhere. The last thing that we ever eradicated was smallpox many years ago. Today, we know now that COVID is here to stay. So let's live with COVID. Start with the SOPs. What do you think, Hafiz?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We need to have a very clear SOPs underlying so that everyone understand what is going on, Ibrahim.
Yeah, that's all that we have for this evening, unfortunately. But thanks for taking the time to spend with us to understand what the week ahead is all about. Remember to use the hashtag AWANI News, because there's a lot of things that can be said or shared with us. Just use the hashtag AWANI News, use our hashtag handles below our names here so that you can reach out to us directly on our social media platforms. But until next week, that's it for now. My name is Ibrahim Sani.
And I'm Hafiz Mazuki signing off for this edition of The Week Ahead. Good night.